We're now going to do the book of Mark from the Message Bible, and I'm going to do some parts from the New King James. I'm not going to do the book of Matthew because I didn't realize that I did it yesterday when I did chapter 5. Chapter 5, I did chapter 6 also. So I'm doing chapter 6, book of Mark. The story continues from when Yeshua raised the girl from the dead, the little girl, when he said, Talitha Kumi. Now he left there and he returned to his hometown. His disciples came along. On the Sabbath, he gave a lecture at a meeting place. He made a real hit, impressing everyone. They all kept saying, oh, we didn't know he was so good. Oh, but isn't he just Mary's son? How did he get so wise all of a sudden? And in the next breath, they were like cutting him down, putting him down, saying nasty things about him. And they were like, oh, we've known him since he was a kid. We know his brothers, James, Justice, Jude, and Simon. We know his sisters too. Who does he think he is? They tripped over what he said and whatever little they knew of him and fell sprawling. And they never got any further. Yeshua told them, a prophet has little honor in his own hometown, among his relatives, on the streets where he played as a child. And he wasn't able to do much of anything in his hometown. He laid hands on a few sick people and healed them. That's all. He couldn't get over their stubbornness. He left and made a circuit of the other villages, teaching. A prophet gets little honor in his own hometown. Yeshua's family knew who he was. His brothers, his sisters, his mother and father, they sure knew who he was. His parents had him divinely. But the other people, the ones who he grew up around, they didn't want to believe there was anything special about him. They didn't want to believe that. Then Yeshua called the 12 to him and sent them out in pairs, in twos. He gave them authority and power to deal with evil opposition. He sent them off with instructions saying, don't think you need a lot of extra equipment for this. You are the equipment. No special appeals for funds. Don't ask anyone for money. Just keep it simple. And no luxury inns. Get a modest place. Be content there until you leave. If you are not welcomed, not listened to, just quietly withdraw. Don't make a scene. Shrug your shoulders and be on your way. In the New King James, he says, dust. What does he say? Dust, the dust of your feet. He said, he sent them 2 by 2. And he said, if you are not welcome anywhere, shake the dust off your feet as a testimony against them. Assuredly, I say to you, it will be more tolerable for Sodom and Gomorrah in the day of judgment than for that city. So they went out and preached that people should repent. And they cast out many demons and anointed many with oil who were sick and healed them. So he said, go simply. If they welcome you, give them the good word, the good news. If they don't, just shake the dust off your feet and move on. He sent them out in pairs. The Bible has told us in the Old Testament that if one can put 1,000 demons to flight, 2 can put 10,000. That's exponential growth. 1 and 1 doesn't make 2, it makes 10,000. There is power in being together. There is power in 2. And the Bible also says a 3-cord strand cannot be broken. So a 3-cord strand, that means you, your spouse, and God. When the 3 of you work together, you are indomitable. Okay. Then it says, King Herod heard of all of this, for by that time the name of Yeshua was on everyone's lips. And he said, this has to be John the Baptizer come back from the dead. That's why he's able to work miracles. And others said, no, no, it's Elijah. Others said, he's a prophet, just like the old-time prophets. But Herod wouldn't budge. It's John, sure enough. I cut off his head and now he's back alive. Herod was the one who had ordered the arrest of John, put him in chains and sent him to prison for the nagging of Herodias, his brother's wife. For John had provoked Herod by naming his relationship with Herodias adultery. Herodias, smouldering with hate, wanted to kill him, but he didn't dare because Herod was in awe of John. Convinced that he was a holy man, and he gave him special treatment. Whenever he listened to him, he was miserable with guilt. Yet he couldn't stay away. Something in John kept pulling him back. But a portentous day arrived when Herod threw a birthday party, inviting all the brass and blue bloods in Galilee. Herodias' daughter entered the banquet hall and danced for the guests. She dazzled Herod and the guests. And the king said to his girl, "Ask me anything and I will give it to you. Anything you want." Carried away, he kept swearing, "I swear I will split my kingdom for you if you say so." The love of fathers for their daughters. She went back to her mother and said, "What should I ask for?" And her mother, using her position with her daughter, sought her own revenge. And she said to her daughter, "Ask for the head of John the Baptist." Excited, she ran back to the king and said, "I want the head of John the Baptizer served up on a platter, and I want it now." That sobered the king up fast. But unwilling to lose face with his guests, he caved in and let her have her wish. See how your swears, your word, can bind you and get you into so much trouble that you cater to the whims of your children. And at the cost of your reputation and your word and your name, you do something so disastrous. The king sent the executioner off to the prison with orders to bring back John's head. He went, cut off John's head, and brought it back on a platter. He presented it to the girl, who gave it to her mother. When John's disciples heard about this, they came and got the body and gave it a decent burial. Wow. So Herod married his brother's wife, Herodias, and John the Baptizer had the courage to keep telling him he had committed adultery. Herod knew what John was saying was the truth. Herodias, on the other hand, was filled with spite and rage. Yes, so then let's go back on here. The apostles then rendezvoused with Yeshua and reported on all that they had done and taught. Yeshua said, "Come off by yourselves, let's take a break and get a little rest." For there was a constant coming and going. They didn't even have time to eat. So they got on the boat and went to a remote place by themselves. Someone saw them going and the word got around. From the surrounding towns, people went there on foot, running, getting ahead of them. And when Yeshua arrived, he saw a huge crowd. At the sight of them, his heart broke. Like sheep with no shepherd they were. He went right to work teaching them. He wanted time to rest, time to recap and get chatting with his disciples. But when he saw the thronging crowds aching for some hope, some word, he didn't have the heart not to give them what they needed. He called them sheep with no shepherd. How much of the world today are sheep with no shepherd, following any goat that comes along saying, "I have a way, I know the way, this is the way." Very sad. When his disciples thought they had gone on long enough, it was quite late in the day, they interrupted, saying, "We are a long way out in the country and it's very late. Pronounce a benediction and send these folks off so they can get some supper." And Yeshua said, "You do it. Fix supper for them." They replied, "Are you serious? You want us to spend a fortune on food for their supper?" And Yeshua was very serious. And he said, "How many loaves of bread do you have? Take an inventory." That didn't take long. 5, they said, plus 2 fish. And Yeshua got them all to sit down in groups of 50 or 100. They looked like a patchwork quilt of wild flowers spread out on the green grass. He took the 5 loaves and 2 fish, lifted his face to heaven in prayer, blessed the food, broke it, gave the bread to his disciples, and the disciples gave it to the people. He did the same with the fish, lifted it up, prayed, blessed the food, broke it, and gave it to his disciples to give the people. And they all ate to their fill. The disciples gathered 12 baskets of leftovers. More than 5,000 people were there at the supper. As soon as the meal was finished, Yeshua insisted that the disciples get on the boat and go ahead to Bethesda, where he dismissed the congregation. After sending them off, he climbed the mountain to pray. So here again we hear about Yeshua walking on water, like we heard in John. And the disciples were so stunned, and they beached the boat, and people ran. They had run all over, went around, got around fast, came bringing their sick on stretchers when they heard where he was. And wherever he went, they brought the sick to the marketplace and begged him to let them touch the edge of his coat. That's all. And whoever touched him became well. We are so consumed with our sickness. We are so consumed with our bodily health. The whole world is wrapped up in being physically healthy. But Yeshua didn't come for our physical health. He came to make us spiritually healthy. He came to make us spiritually alive and whole. Even though that was what he came for, he couldn't resist healing us physically. Our physical healing was the tiniest thing he could do for us. And yet, we don't trust him to heal us when we are sick now. Get spiritually healed, get spiritually whole. The physical wholeness will just be a byproduct. It will be a product of your faith. Your faith will heal you, because Yeshua has already done the healing. On the cross, when he died, he said, "It is finished." He has completed the work that he needed to do to give us spiritual wholeness, physical wholeness. When he said, "Be blessed," to be blessed means to be whole in every way. That is being blessed. If I have all the money in the world, but I have no peace, I'm not whole. If I have all the money in the world and I do not have good relationships, I'm not whole. If I have all the money in the world but I'm sick physically, I'm not whole. If I have no money and I have health, I have good relationships, I have physical wholeness, but I don't have the wealth that I need to live, I'm not whole. So when he said, "You are blessed," it means you are whole. Your faith will make you whole in every way. Your faith that you are whole, that he has made you whole already, that is being blessed, and that is faith. And we finished with the book of Mark from the Message Bible. Be healed, be well, be whole, be in faith. Hallelujah.